The Law Matters to You, a lecture series built to inform and educate. The Department of Communication, in collaboration with the University of St. Martin, invites you to our first in a series of lectures entitled The Law Matters to You. Join us at USM, 7 p.m. Tuesday, March 29th, and hear keynote speaker Judge Moritz de Court cover the topic, The Court and Legal System of St. Martin. The Law Matters to You, a lecture series built to inform and educate.
At this time, I'd like to open the floor for questions from the media. The floor is now open for questions.
Thank you, Marcia. Good morning. Happy Easter to you, ministers. My first question, I'm going to start with Minister of Spatial Planning, Minister Myers. You gave a lengthy explanation as per the garbage contracts, how it was divided, how much it is going to cost. If I'm correct, today is either the 23rd. These contracts, these new contractors, I believe, have to start April 1st. Were they notified in a timely manner, even though the Council of Ministers is yet to take a decision, that they were selected in order for them to obtain loans to buy the heavy equipments that they may need to start on April 1st? Do they have those things in place?
Again, as I indicated, the last time I attended press briefing, you indicated your questions to that effect. And I indicated then that I did not receive the final advice on who will be awarded the contracts. I received that. To my knowledge, it came on my desk on Monday, and we reviewed it, and it will be decided on tomorrow morning. As soon as the decision is made by the Council of Ministers, a letter will go out to the contractors. I guess they need some letter of comfort to approach the banks to get the necessary loans or financial assistance that is needed. I was not approached by any contractors indicating that they will not meet the April 1st deadline.
Are there any new contractors there that would have to buy new equipment? And do you think the time span that we have right now, 6 or 7 days, will give them the amount of time to obtain the loan as well as to purchase the equipment and get them on the island?
Well, there's different scenarios. From the 5 contractors, 3 are new contractors, 2 are existing contractors. So that means that 2 contractors at present are not awarded contracts, and they have heavy equipment. I don't know if arrangements was made with the 3 new contractors to, in the interim time, lease or rent the equipment from the other 2 contractors. I have no knowledge of that. But again, I did not get indication from any of the new contractors that they need, with the time span then, that they were running into trouble.
Minister Lee, you spoke about a business whatsoever that was checked. And this business had no business license, 15 employees working, 11 undocumented, no crib number. Did that business applied for a business license, and if so, how long?
My understanding is yes, they had applied for a business license at the end of 2015. I'm not sure of the exact dates, because that goes through a different ministry, and those are some of the things we're looking into. And that's why, I really want to stress, my approach to finding solutions is that, first of all, I want to understand, was an effort made to be compliant? And then, was the fault that they didn't apply in time, or is the fault that the government apparatus is so slow? So I can't really comment on the, let's say, the intention, whether it was negligent or sort of willful misconduct, or if it was just something got stuck in the government apparatus. So it's too early to make a judgment call in terms of that. I'm saying, though, I have heard instances, in particular, let's say with restaurants, where the process is a complicated process, that they have to rent a space, they have to have a location for their business license, they have to have the kitchen installed, for example, which means that they have to make all of that necessary investments. So imagine if you've made an investment in renting a facility, equipping that facility, and then let's say it takes you 6 months to get all of your permits in order. What does a business do in that meantime? Is that just something that they need to anticipate as a cost of doing business? Or is there, so those are all things that I need to look into. Don't really understand very clearly as yet what the process looks like.
Marcia, do I have my third question?
Yes, you do.
I do have my third question. All right. Minister Lee, one of the things you mentioned is the fact that everyone should get medical insurance, and that you are, I think, in consultation with some insurance company that can provide affordable packages. What about SZV? Can't SZV provide those affordable packages to independent workers?
So, number one, let me clarify a couple points. I think that having health insurance is an important part in anybody's, in their life, in planning, right? So I spoke to a number of people. For example, I spoke to a taxi driver who said they don't have health insurance. What's SZV going to do for me? And I said, look, I understand. So the process of SZV being able to offer individual policies would require some changes in there from a policy side. And that will take time. It's something that we're looking into as we're looking at the whole SZV structure in general. But regardless, and this is what I explained to the person as well, is if something happens to you, what you're doing is in reality putting your entire family at financial risk, because if you encounter a medical condition that requires you to spend a significant amount of money, either you're going to end up burdening the government or your family is going to take the financial hit. So when I say everybody should have health insurance, what I'm speaking about is from a fiscal management perspective, managing your family's finances. It's the right thing to do to make sure that you have health insurance. And it is up to government to try and figure out, what are the different options, what are the different avenues, and I agree that eventually looking at SZV as a possibility is an option. And that's why in the short term, because I'm looking for short-term immediate solutions, and actually I've just received a proposal today now, while we're here in the meeting, of a private insurance company looking in particular at the Amanzaks, the sole proprietors. So those are vendors, bus drivers, taxi drivers, at putting together a group package, so based on volume, and a competitive package. It is not the same as SZV, but at least it's an interim step as we move towards, and I think this is one of the discussions that will eventually come out of the hospital, discussion about national health insurance.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Bibi. Andrew?
Good morning to the ministers. Minister Lee, if we can stay on the topic, compliance in the labor market. Now, just to make sure that we're clear, so that you don't get a line outside your office, you want employers to come to you or the Labor Department? Because I just want to make sure it's clear, because you said, you want them to come in.
Sure. Look, so the application for work permits obviously needs to be done via the labor office. My point was, if you have a structural problem, a that you cannot become compliant for some bureaucratic reason, for some policy reason, for some legislative reason, that you say, look, I would like to be, it is my intention to be fully compliant, but because of XYZ structural, legislative, policy issue, I can't be compliant, or I have a problem to become compliant, you can send a communication to my office. And I've stressed, I will not get involved in solving your individual case. I'm not going to take your case and go shop it around to the different ministries and figure out how to solve it. I will look at it, though, from a policy perspective and say, does government need to adjust something in order to make complying with the law possible? And that's where I stress, compliance with the law should be the path of least resistance.
Understand. The Zika virus, we haven't received any update thus far. Is it still to the case that we had?
Correct. That's my understanding. That it's still, there's been no new cases.
No new cases. Minister Gibson, the road tax 2016, we heard that from the police that about 4,000 persons haven't paid their road tax since Monday. You said you was going to meet with the receivers to get an update. Any update for us?
Well, I didn't meet with her, but I did call her, and I did follow up on it. And indeed, there are about 4,000 number plates still outstanding. I also, to be able to find out if this is unusual, or if it's a problem compared to previous years, and the indication from her part is no, it's not. Last year, you probably had at this time, about 3,000 number plates that had not yet been sold. So there is a small difference, but that difference, I think, came because the number plates came in so late. But everything, according to her, seems to be on track and will smooth itself out.
Okay. Minister Lee, the hospital just recently celebrated 25 years. Healthcare, is it where you want it to be now?
Where I would like it to be is to have a brand spanking new hospital. So is it where I would like it to be now? No. Are we on the path to where I think it needs to be? I think so, yes. I think the hospital has been challenged over many years. I think that given the resources that they have available, they're doing a fantastic job. As a matter of fact, I think it was in the newspaper today, I saw that the director from the SMMC has visited to Saba and Statia, and they've signed an agreement that will make the SMMC its preferred hospital for, I think, the next 3 years or so. And what does it mean, really? It means that clearly our open and transparent process in terms of where we're going with the new hospital, where we're going in general with healthcare is resounding. It resounds with Minister Plasterk, with the CFT, and it also resounds now with Saba and Statia to the point that they feel an increased energy and optimism towards the level of service from the SMMC, and I think that's reflected in the agreement that they've signed. So am I pleased with the progress? Yes. Are we, and we have a very clear path to how we get to excellence for the community.
The Department of Communication, in collaboration with the University of St. Martin, invites you to our first in a series of lectures entitled The Law Matters to You. Join us at USM, 7 p.m. Tuesday, March 29th, and hear keynote speaker Judge Moritz de Court cover the topic, The Court and Legal System of St. Martin, The Law Matters to You, a lecture series built to inform and educate.
I believe that you are in constant consultation with SZV. Can you tell me the structure of SZV when it comes to medical doctors being at SZV to either grant sick days to anybody that goes there. For example, if a house doctor give a patient a week off, and then they go to SZV, is there a medical doctor there to verify the person's health condition, and then to approve the amount of days that the house doctor gave, or even increase it? Or is there just doctors that are doing administrative work that give maybe John 1 day, Peter 10 days? How does it work?
SZV is working very closely together with myself and the ministry. Clear policies, so patients' rights is a critical part of SZV providing quality service to the population. SZV has their 3.0 customer service that they're working on. So they are working on structurally improving the quality of care that they give to their customers. Addressing things like a dental policy, at what point is it dental care, and at what point is it medical care? Addressing eyeglasses, I mean, as we've been working with the health bus in the community, we're seeing that there's a number of issues where problems are falling between the cracks, right? So, and I think that a consistent policy in terms of extending sick leave, it's an issue within government as well. Even, how do we handle people who are on extended sick leaves? And so what it comes down to is having a open, fair, transparent policy in terms of how it's applied. I hear stories, some of them from you, about how it's been, how it seems to miss consistency. And so very much our focus from the ministry is to make sure that SZV is public and transparent with its policies and how they're enforcing their regulations, of which how sick leaves are extended or terminated is certainly one of the points.
You didn't answer my question.
So,
So let me get it right.
okay.
Do we have medical doctors at SZV, or do we have administrative doctors under nurses or nurses' aid that take care of this? Do we have a medical doctor that examine a patient there, or does?
So they do have medical doctors there, clearly. And what you're asking in reality is, how do they divide their workload, and how they specifically, their procedures in terms of who's examining and who makes the final decisions. I'm not clear on that, but I imagine that in cases of extended sick leave, it should be the physician there that's making that determination. So how they actually do it in practice, I'm not clear on, but it is something we'll find out for you.
Thank you, Emil.
You're welcome.
Minister Lee. Minister Gibson, I think you were expecting me to come hitting some questions with you first, but I choose you for the last. The best is always good for the last, especially at Easter. I asked you last week because there is some information that I received regarding cars that government leased from a specific auto dealer on the island. And to my good surprise is that these cars were not leased to own. They were leased for some cars as old as 8 years from the auto dealer. Government is paying like 2,400 guilders a month for the vehicle, and then when the vehicle breaks down, there's a story there, and I believe this particular situation applies to the Ministry of Justice. Some of the information I got is even at one point those cars were repossessed because of lack of payment from government, but then the auto dealer decided to give back the cars to the Ministry of Justice, but at no point amended the amount of monthly payment that has to be made to them, even though the cars are years, very much old cars, and not as it should be, not in proper working condition. Have you gotten the chance to look into this or have any information on this for me?
No, I want to recognize indeed that you brought this to my attention 2 days ago, and following up on it, I've asked the SG from the Ministry of AZ, which is General Affairs, to please start an investigation. And I wanted a report as to what number of cars we have in lease, what we're paying for them, how long we have for them to be able to draw a conclusion. At this point in time, I cannot draw no conclusions because I don't have the information. I hope when they're finished with their investigation to take a complete look at the situation and to see where corrections need to be made, because it sounds to me that there is a lot of waste there that we've got to correct. So I'm waiting until that investigation is complete, and then probably I could speak more intelligently about the details of it.
Thank you, Minister Gibson. I think I have one more other question, and it's for Minister Lee regarding the labor permits. Have your ministry been looking into the amount of job placement agencies, some of which are being operated by former civil servants who used to work at the Labor Department, but then after they went on pension, opened their own companies, and instead of the Labor Department finding jobs for our people that are registered there, they're basically sent to these job placement agencies? Have your ministry started looking into that?
You're saying the Labor Office is sending
Yes.
people to the...
Job placement agencies.
I'm not aware of that. I do know that from the inspectorate, we are looking at how the outside bureaus or labor agencies are functioning. And there's a number of concerns about how they're operating. They are currently being examined. So in terms of how far they are in that process, I'm not sure, but I do know that there's a number of concerns about some of them. I think there's some that probably operate correctly, and I think there's others that there's concerns about. So, but from the ministry, there is a process that they are looking into how they function and if they're functioning correctly.
And let me ask you my final question regarding the undocumented workers or workers that are not properly declared. Is it the duty of the employer to deduct taxes from these employees' salary? And if that turned out to be the case and it's not turned over to the tax department, what repercussions does your ministry plan to take against these employers?
Well, SZV premiums, tax revenues, these fall under other ministries, and so it would be, so that's why we have interministerial cooperation. So I think the natural would be that if we find a situation, for example, the one I mentioned in the press conference, that information would then be shared with the receiver's office or other appropriate entities, and then it would be up to them to look into how they're going to assess and collect missing revenues.
Thank you.
Thank you, PP. Andrew?
Minister Gibson, the budget, if you could just let me know if it went to the governor for signing as yet?
Same day.
Oh, see. And priority for you now, Minister Gibson, you were, of course, the budget was your hurdle at, now that it's approved, what would be your ministry's priority?
The budget is one step in many steps that has to be taken in a very short time. There are areas that has to be followed up on, one of them being, like I'd mentioned before in press briefings, the division of the assets of the Netherlands Antilles and the monies that are still owed to St. Martin from that division. I have contacted the Minister of Finance of Curaçao, and I'm in the process of setting a date to go to Curaçao to sit down with him and to discuss this matter and see if we can get a solution for it. There are issues with the central bank and the manning of the central bank and the appointment of people who have to occupy the seats in the central bank. That's another matter which I will be addressing with him when I go there. There are issues that relates to the development of St. Martin. And I've mentioned in Parliament that I am, with the necessary haste, going to proceed with the creation of a National Bank of St. Martin, specifically Development Bank of St. Martin, and try to get that funded so that we can use that bank for development. There are certain legislation that I have in the pipeline that I'll be pursuing to get those legislation completed in time. There is attention that has to be given to the tax department to bring the Department of Taxes up to date and to get it to comply with international treaties that have been signed and obligations that we have, principally FATCA. FATCA is something that we have to comply with, as well as the other set of rules that relates to the automatic exchange of information between countries. Both of these items require attention and investment in the tax department so that it could be compliant, so St. Martin could be compliant, so we can continue to enjoy the relationship we have with the rest of the world. So there are several things that needs just as much attention as the budget got, and that's where I'm going to dedicate my time to, not in the least the fact that the governmental apparatus overall needs overhauling, because if you don't have a governmental apparatus that can carry all of the duties and obligations of government, then you will not be able to succeed with anything you're doing. So that is an area too where I'll be focusing on.
The Department of Communication, in collaboration with the University of St. Martin, invites you to our first in a series of lectures entitled The Law Matters to You. Join us at USM, 7 p.m. Tuesday, March 29th, and hear keynote speaker Judge Moritz de Kort cover the topic, The Court and Legal System of St. Martin, The Law Matters to You, a lecture series built to inform and educate.